Land acknowledgement. I'm here in the land of the Mi'kmaq people. And today we're looking at cultivating a kind, compassionate relationship with myself. There is a lot written about this now, and a lot of audios and a lot of information on how to do this. So I'm not going to take a lot of time on this part other than to say we work with this whole polyvagal system all the time with our fight, flight, freeze. Every day when we do a practice of relaxation or breathing, what we're doing is regulating our nervous system. Some people, they seem kind of mythical maybe at times, had a secure attachment when they were growing up and had well-regulated adults around them. So they had the great fortune of having a well-regulated nervous system, resilient and strong. For most of us, that's not the situation. We have to develop that as adults, and luckily we can. So one of the ways that we do that is being around other regulated people. And so that coming here and in the groups and friends who are regulated and ourselves, that's, part of the popularity of meditation is that it helps us to regulate our nervous system. And we also really know that right now, especially, we're a year and a half into the COVID pandemic, and last year Black Lives Matter and all of the more social awareness now of different kinds of oppression and intersectionality and how all of that fits in. And then we bring our nervous systems, our historical nervous systems, into the present moment. These are some of the ways that we bring that in. Part of it is we might have a pattern of holding our breath, or we have our shoulders up around our ears. We certainly have patterns of tension in our body. We might have a habit of disconnecting or dissociating. Self-flagellation, the core deficiency beliefs. So all of these are ways that we interact within ourselves and how we move about in the world. And when Gabor Mate talks about how we disconnect when we're traumatized, that's what we're talking about. His quote is, the effect of trauma is that we lose our awareness of our own basic goodness. And we disconnect and we forget kind of be here in this moment because there's so much other compulsion in our mind and our thought stream. So what we know is that we need to come out of fight, flight, and freeze in order to have a relationship of kindness and compassion with ourselves or with anyone else. So when we have the mean inner critic, or when we're escaping into wine or cake on the graphic here, or we're in a fight response or a flight response, then we're not in ventral vagal. We have no access, or not as much access, to that trust and connection. So this is the background of what we're doing. So when we're looking at why am I not kinder and more compassionate with myself, this is some of the background to that. What I have in mind today is to spend most of our time doing inquiry. So we'll take several minutes on each of these next few slides. So feeling alone and unseen is experienced as a threat. So that's something that we might hear, like Stephen Porges has a quote about feeling safe means that there's an absence of threat plus a feeling of connection. This is following along with that a little bit. And emotional neglect is something that people take a lot more serious now than they did before. In the past, that wasn't really seen as such a problem. And now we really see the effect. And that was for sure the biggest trauma for me as a child, as a younger child, preteen, was that I wasn't really seen. And that was a very common experience for many people. But the thing about not being seen is it feels like being kind of shunned. So we have to pretend we're somebody else in order to be acceptable, in order to be included, or we're just labeled as you're too sensitive, or you're too loud, or you're goofy, or whatever that might be in your family. So let's start here by just bringing to mind some of those experiences that you had when you were younger. And as we're doing this, bringing to mind past trauma, we're always trying to be really steady in this moment. So notice your feet, your seat. You could hold your own hands, you could put a hand on your heart, keep your eyes open, look around. Notice that right now you're safe. Your body's safe. There's nobody here that's going to yell at you or show contempt for you. We're just doing an inquiry. So keep that steadiness as you bring these memories forward. And let your healthier adult self be here and really see your younger one. What might that child at age of 3 or 7 or 15, whatever is coming to mind, what might they need to hear from you? And just having our attention is more powerful than words. The words can be there too. So see if you could connect with that younger self. Maybe it's a specific memory. Maybe it's a pervasive, chronic experience of not being noticed or seen. If you feel like you're being dragged back into the past, do some tapping on your forehead. Take your attention away from the memory for a moment. Come back into the sound and sensation of the tapping. Use the tools to stay present. And let your adult self be there. What might that child have needed to hear at the time that maybe now you could reassure yourself with? You're not alone anymore. Really feel into that. What does that feel like? I'm not alone anymore. Notice your breath. Your experience of feeling unloved was not your fault. And it doesn't mean you're unlovable. That was not your fault. Stay a little bit connected with your heart center. That you're experiencing these words and this connection in a somatic way in your body. I am here now. I see you. I value you. I love you. And as you're working with either these phrases or just sitting with your awareness of that younger self, notice what's happening in your nervous system. Are you feeling numb? Are you checking out? See if you can just keep coming back to being aware in your body. What are some of the memories that you have of feeling isolated and alone? Sometimes it's really obvious where somebody's bullying you or making fun of you. Sometimes it's more subtle. It's just a feeling of nobody really cares if I'm there or not. They look at me and just dismiss me and go back to their conversation that don't matter. Memories might come up. Let yourself feel into that. And do that with your adult self present. Right now, in this moment, that's not happening. Right now, in this moment, we're connecting with ourselves. And you could bring in an image if you wanted, maybe from a school picture at that age or a family picture, or just maybe something will come to mind, a certain experience. These are really difficult, painful situations to be in. We're just letting our adult self be here right now in the present moment and then connecting with that younger self who had those experiences. Just taking our time. Notice your breath. Notice what you might want to say, what they might need to hear. It's okay to cry. I know you're upset. I'm here now. So, as we pay attention to our experience right now, just notice what are the barriers to connection right now? Is it a flight response? You're kind of dissociating, thinking about something else? Are you getting angry? Are you getting engaged with some kind of catastrophic thinking? Notice your fight, flight, freeze responses. Or maybe it's I feel undeserving of love. So maybe your inner critic is active right now. And the inner critic can be pretty nasty. So see if that's going on, see if you could let that move to the background or tell it to be quiet. It's not helpful. It might be true that if you were smarter or less socially anxious or something, that your life would have been different, but so what? That's not the point right now. And if you feel kind of cold hearted or numb, it might just be that you're feeling a bit of a freeze response. Some of these experiences are very painful and we don't want to go back to them. And it might not be the time. So, no pressure at all. We don't need to push ourselves into anything. So, feeling connected is the answer to this, to the disconnection, to the loneliness, alienation. As you're sitting here, if you want, you could hum quietly to yourself. And as you do, really feel the vibration in your heart area. Put everything else to the background for a moment. Deep breaths in. Relax your throat, your neck, your chest. Sense and feel into that vibration in your heart area. If you want, you could look around the room. You might need a reset back into this moment in time. Just notice the cues of safety. Hold your own hand. Just remember in your body that you're here. And from, again, this healthy adult self, we're going to go back and just sense who is the one that's feeling disconnected, out of touch, not loved. Just bring up a memory if something comes up. It can be something specific or just kind of a general experience at a certain age. When we're working with feeling not good enough or feeling shame, often there's a real discomfort around being seen. So there might be a sense of something's kind of over there in the corner, but not really wanting to come forward. So another way to invite that forward is, who is the one who's most uncomfortable with being seen right now? And you just notice if an age and experience comes to mind. We can stay with this for a while. You could move to the second step of offering compassion to yourself at all ages. And if you have something specific coming up, you could stay with that for a while too. Place your hand on your heart, continue to hum for a moment. Really feel that in your chest, in your heart area. And then bring forward this felt sense and an image of yourself at various ages. So I mentioned school pictures or family pictures. So maybe start with an early age, or if something's coming through strongly, just go right to that age. Take at least a minute, like at least 6 or 8 breaths with each age. Just feel that in your heart, in your body. Maybe there's an image. This part of the practice, we're not really saying things so much. We're really just bringing them in, connecting in our heart with them, sensing their presence. You might go from 3, maybe to age 5 or 6 when you started school. That's often a time when we feel not very safe or not protected. Or it might be the opposite. Things were really hard at home, and then at school you feel better. Notice what comes up, several breaths with each age. Maybe you're moving into kind of pre-teen age. You're into puberty and into your teen years. Kind of scrolling through our memory of significant times. And if you feel yourself getting disconnected, just bring yourself back. Maybe do some humming, put your hand on your heart, hold your own hand. Stay aware of your breath. And notice what comes to mind when you bring yourself into your adult years. And again, we sometimes anchor to significant events like coming of age, getting your first apartment or home, getting married into a serious relationship, whatever those were for you, different jobs. We're not going to skip this part. We'll bring 3 or 4 at least times of when you were an adult, bring them into your awareness, sense their presence. What was going on for you then? And if it's any kind of disturbing memories that are coming up, see if you can hold yourself with kindness, compassion. Right now, in this moment, those aren't happening. It's a memory that's coming up. Notice your breath. Notice if it's affecting your body somehow. Oftentimes we'll tighten up or some kind of energy will come in. And then as you're kind of coming more into present moment awareness again, notice the through line. All of these versions of ourselves, we were there for all of this. It was me that was experiencing those things. And notice what stands out from the memories that came forward. So we're not really specifically directing our memory. We're pointing it in a certain direction, but then we're not trying to control what comes. So just notice, what was your experience? And on an overall basis, is there kindness here for you? Especially when those difficult experiences come forward. Hopefully, there were some more wonderful ones too. But our primitive brain does tend to have that negativity bias. So there might have been more difficult ones that were coming forward, especially since we were looking at when we were feeling disconnected. And can you connect with yourself right now? Let's give that a couple of minutes. Notice your heart center. Notice your feet, your hands. Notice that you're here. Really attuned to that sense of what never changes. That part of you, or how it's not really a word thing, but what is that sense of you that was there when you were a toddler and in high school and when you had your different adult experiences that's still the same right now? It feels like it's the same. And then for the last of these inquiry slides, really again stay connected in your presence, your awareness, rest your attention in your heart center. So, this is something we can only do when we're not in fight, flight, freeze. I see myself with clarity and compassion. We'll go through each of these. I'll just kind of drop them in. You can close your eyes and kind of let them come in if you want. Or there might be something in there that's really attracting your attention. You could focus more on that. In order to see ourselves with clarity, we need to be able to stay with whatever comes up. We need to let in the truth. So if we're in freeze in a relationship, we're probably not going to be able to see it clearly because we might not have any confidence that we could make the changes we need to make. And maybe we see it somewhat clearly, but then we go into an inner critic storm or a shame storm. And then we have to get away from that. So as much as you can be really present and aware, stay in your body, notice your breath. And these are some things that we could cultivate. I am patient and encouraging with myself. I accept my nervous system history. Now, that one's a bit complicated. But we do have the history we have. We have the level of hypervigilance we have. Some of us have PTSD or complex PTSD. So, what would that help or what would that mean? I accept my nervous system history. I savor my unique inner authenticity instead of shutting down a little bit around certain people, which becomes quite a habit. I savor my unique inner authenticity, that creative spark, that sense of who I am. I'm willing to stop blaming myself and stop being aggressive, stop being so pushy. And again, that's a habit. That's a trauma response that can be quite well established. So that's another habit that we might have to work with pretty consistently for a little while. We see it and we stop. We relax into being kinder. Same with shame. As soon as I notice I'm feeling shame, I move out of it. I pause. If we're in a shame posture, that's sometimes how we notice it. We're kind of slumped over, eyes down. So we're watching for that, and then we do the opposite. We sit straight, we open our eyes and look around, bring our eyes up, open our heart, relax our shoulders. Shame is a experience that makes us want to hide. So we turn it around. We stop doing that. And we stop turning on ourselves. So again, here's this inner critic. I'm willing to stop turning on myself. And the second step from stopping turning on ourselves, of course, is to really welcome ourselves, really feel compassion for ourselves, but also just to really feel proud or honoring who we are. We don't have to turn on ourselves anymore, even though that might have been a very persistent habit. So we stop the negative behavior and then we cultivate the positive. Continue to really notice your whole nervous system, your body, your breath, your heart center. I'm cultivating optimism and trust that I can heal and grow. I know for absolutely for sure that this is possible. It's possible for me, it's possible for everyone. And as we get more experiences in this, we believe that more, we know it more surely. Let's just sit with that as we're finishing. I have optimism and trust in the healing process that I can heal and grow.